From Montana's news leader, this is the MTN Noon News.
Hello, everybody. Thank you for joining us on this Tuesday. I'm Casey Conlon. The lasting impact of this latest winter storm continues to mar roads across Montana today, with still more snow expected for many. Take a look outside there, and now this is the Department of Transportation's map. Almost every interstate and highway covered in snow and ice. You can see a number of incidents causing slowdowns across the state. The worst coming early this morning near Frenchtown. 3 people killed after stopping on the side of I-90 to help another car that had slid off the road. That, according to the Highway Patrol. MHP says an SUV lost control going eastbound and slid off at approximately 3 a.m. At the crash, 2 vehicles stopped to offer assistance. While outside of those vehicles rendering aid, 2 males were struck and killed by a tractor trailer that lost control. In addition to hitting the 2 men, the tractor trailer struck the parked vehicles, killing 1 juvenile who was inside and causing severe injuries to another. MHP says emergency personnel still on the scene and the investigation is ongoing. So far this month, the Montana Department of Transportation reports 8 snow plows have been hit by other vehicles on the roads. MTN's Emily Brown brings us tips to drive safely and why "Don't crowd the plow" isn't just a catchy tagline.
With the heavy snowfall in Bozeman the past couple weeks, I'm checking in with local snow plowers to see how the job has been.
It's just a lot of snow, obviously, this last couple weeks. It's been pretty crazy.
Trey Lehman works for Linden Landscaping Services, and though their typical projects include things like lawn maintenance and irrigation, lately snow removal has kept them busy.
So like last week was kind of crazy. We were out for, 15 hours throughout the day, and then you'd go home and sleep for 6 to 8 hours, and then you'd get back up and start at 5 o'clock in the morning.
Trey says they focus mostly on business and some residential snow removal, using a small fleet of plowers to get the job done.
We have 4 trucks, actually 3 trucks set up with these large plows, and then we have a salter in the back. And then for sidewalks, you use large blowers or sidewalk machines with blades on the front of them.
Trey says sub-zero temperatures have both helped and hindered the snow removal process.
So it stops it from being icy to start with. It kind of flakes up and you can actually clear it down to the sidewalk. Biggest problem is our piles. They're obviously not melting and, they're stacked up in people's way. So do our best to move those as we can.
According to the National Weather Service, Bozeman has seen about 6 inches of snow in the last 72 hours, and the snow left on the ground is about 23 inches.
We try to plow everything to the west because the wind just blows from the east a lot of the time and starts drifting up on sidewalks, and now you've got 2 feet of snow.
I asked Trey, how can residents help make plowing easier for you?
Last week, if you didn't move your car at all last week, you're probably blocked in. You're going to need a tow. You're going to need, and we do help people with that. We push cars out all day long. It happens. Everyone helps. It's Montana. We're used to it. But, if you can just move your car between 10 and 3 in an apartment complex, if you're parked on the side of the street, I really would recommend moving at least once.
In Bozeman, Heaven Van, MTN News.
We received most of our snow, but it's not quite done. A live view looking at our state capital, Helena. Still some light snow. 2 degrees is pretty chilly right now. Far warmer, though, in Missoula. 34 degrees, lots of clouds, some areas of fog. But at least, hey, it's above freezing. Then we head to Butte. It is below freezing, but warmer than many places. 21 degrees, areas of light snow and a little bit of freezing fog. More snow falling in Bozeman, where it's only 9 degrees. Then we head further to the east. In Billings, it's still 2 degrees below zero right now with some light snowflakes falling, but big changes are coming off your forecast coming up.
Let's take a leading look at today's headlines now. We now know the identity of the driver accused of hitting a school bus in Billings last week while driving under the influence. Charging documents say 40-year-old Gregory Biggs faces 2 counts of criminal endangerment along with DUI. 2 children were on the bus at the time of the crash. No one was hurt. An off-duty Yellowstone County Sheriff's deputy is at the center of a Montana Highway Patrol investigation after troopers say he drove his car into a home and then fled the scene. Troopers say a call came in around 2 a.m. Saturday, reporting a vehicle striking a house in the Billings Heights. The unidentified injured deputy was found at a different home nearby and taken to the hospital. Highway Patrol did not say if he will face charges for leaving the scene of the crash. And effective yesterday, the U.S. attorney representing the state of Montana has announced his departure after 3 years in the role. Jesse Laslovich was nominated by former President Joe Biden in 2022, overseeing all federal criminal prosecutions and civil litigation. The U.S. Attorney's Office focused on an array of crimes during his tenure, including prosecuting drug trafficking and violent and sexual abuse crimes on the state's 6 Indian reservations. One of those cases involved dismantling a large multi-state drug trafficking organization that was based on the Crow Indian Reservation property known as Spear Siding. The case resulted in federal convictions of 27 persons and was one of the largest federal drug trafficking investigations in Montana. That's today's Leading Look. Yesterday, dozens gathered across the state for Not My President's Day protests, including in downtown Billings. The protest, just one of many around the nation, put on by the grassroots organization 5051. They're aimed at opposing policies enacted by President Donald Trump since his return to the White House. Organizers cite recent executive actions, including that federal agency restructuring and changes to immigration policy, as key motivators behind yesterday's movement. For those in attendance, they say it's important to realize the impact these moves are having on so many lives.
I'm more concerned about what this is doing to the government and to public safety, to be honest. You know, they got rid of people who had a mission to take care of dams and keep them safe and do inspections, and those people are, many of them, out of work now.
The organization's name, 5051, derives from the movement's goal: 50 states, 50 protests in one day. Protesters also gathered outside the Missoula County Courthouse in response to multiple national calls from activist groups. They chanted on a variety of issues, from immigration to federal spending to the meaning of democracy itself. Protesters like Kathy Pirandozzi held signs to rally nearby drivers.
We live in Montana, so it feels like we're kind of out here in the boondocks. But as you can see, we also are feeling the same thing that everybody is feeling all over the world. And I think we need to stand in the place where we live. And that's what I'm doing today.
The group marched around the courthouse and downtown, heading past the courthouse on Broadway. Some drivers honked along while others chanted support for President Trump and his administration. Montana Senator Tim Sheehy isn't wasting time in his first days at the U.S. Capitol. He's introduced the No Tax Dollars for Terrorists Act, a bill that would require strategy to oppose financial or material support by foreign countries and non-governmental organizations to the Taliban. According to an audit report from Special Inspector General for Afghanistan Reconstruction, at least $10.9 million of U.S. taxpayer money has been paid to the Taliban-controlled government, stemmed from taxes, fees, and customs from humanitarian and development assistance. Sheehy notes why this bill is important, especially for him.
And for people like me who've lost friends in the war to fight these people, who spent many years of my adult life fighting terrorists all over the world, it was infuriating to really come to understand the scope of money we were literally taking out of Montanans' pockets and handing it to Hamas, Hezbollah, Iran, and the Taliban. So I led that bill in the Senate. It came out of the House, and I've championed it in the Senate. It was very important for me to make sure I was the one to push that bill forward, because it's just something we cannot keep sending Montanans' tax dollars to terrorist organizations, especially when we're $36 trillion in debt and climbing.
Two members of Montana's congressional delegation were newly elected in November and addressed the legislature for the first time since taking office on Monday. The sharpest comments came from newly elected U.S. Senator Tim Sheehy, who said Montana voted overwhelmingly for President Donald Trump's agenda and called on Democrats to abandon the politics of resistance.
The American people didn't vote against Joe Biden or Kamala Harris. They didn't vote against John Tester. They voted for the future of their children, and they voted for America first.
Congressman Troy Downing, the new representative from Montana's Eastern District, said the newly seated Congress has already been effective in its first few weeks.
I'm really happy that we have had moments where folks had the opportunity to air their grievances, be considered, be heard, and then come together understanding that we have to find what we have in common to actually get the ball down the field.
Western District Congressman Ryan Zinke, making his third speech to a legislative session, made the case that the Trump administration's actions on federal spending are a valid response to seek out waste and abuse.
And we may agree or disagree whether a certain project has merit. Let's have that disagreement. But there should be no disagreement on whether that project should be accountable, should be transparent.
One member of the congressional delegation didn't speak Monday. Senator Steve Daines' office says he is in South America for meetings on trade policy. He was scheduled to meet Monday with Argentina's President Javier Milei. Lawmakers did hear from two other speakers. Justin Grayhawk Sr., chair of the Fort Peck tribes, delivered an address on the state of the tribal nations and urged lawmakers to oppose bills that would infringe on tribes' treaty rights. And Montana Supreme Court Chief Justice Corey Swanson addressed the state of the judiciary and asked lawmakers to listen to legal concerns that have been raised on some of the judicial reform legislation they're considering. One other notable difference from the recent times the congressional delegation has addressed the legislature, all the members are of the same party, the Republicans, and they're of the same party as the legislative majority. In Helena, Jonathan Amberian, MTN News.